Jack was just taking a dip in a freezing ice hole at 30 degrees Celsius, but after climbing out, he unexpectedly caught several large fish. Just as he happily headed back for a feast, he spotted a black suitcase lying on the ground nearby. He sensed that something was wrong. He rushed over to check it out. Opening it up, he found it stuffed with a full $2 million in cash. To his greater surprise, a sunken plane lay beneath the ice. Though he knew the money could bring trouble, he wasn't about to turn down a free meal. He immediately hauled the cash back to his cabin, planning to flee far away at daybreak. But he never expected that at dawn the next morning, he ran into a policewoman patrolling the lake. Seeing his nervous face, she questioned him. As they spoke, her gaze locked onto the black suitcase. Lifting the lid, she froze on the spot. Just as the policewoman was about to take Jack back to the police station for questioning, an SUV suddenly charged toward them. Several armed men immediately jumped out. Before the policewoman could react, their boss raised his gun. Seeing her about to be shot dead, Jack ran into him. A fierce gun battle erupted on the ice. Amid the chaos, the policewoman rushed to the car, desperate to escape. Jack leaped into the vehicle just as fast, but the thugs had no intention of letting them go. Jack knew the secret beneath the ice. The boss was determined to silence him. All the way, Jack had to wrestle with the attacker. For finally, he kicked him in the box off the car. Just like that, the box, due to inertia, plopped into the icy lake. Seeing Jack and the others run away, the boss immediately flew into a rage. He immediately ordered to chase down these two, because they are the only witnesses who know the crash site of the plane. It turns out that box of cash was stolen by this gang from drug dealers. They originally planned to fly the plane and transport the money away. Who would have thought the plane had an accident midway, crashing directly into the ice lake? And inside that crashed plane, there were over a dozen boxes, each containing $2 million. To guard against those thugs chasing to retaliate, the female officer immediately picked up the walkie-talkie and called her back. Then she pulled the accelerator, trying to get off the ice as quickly as possible. But just at this critical moment, the car annoyingly stalled. Helpless, the two of them could only get out and run on foot. Afraid Jack might slip away in the chaos, the female officer purposely took a rope and tied his hands. Not long after, that gang of thugs caught up with the stalled police car, but the car was already empty, not a soul in sight. Before they could figure out what happened, the ice cracked open with a snap. Seeing the whole car about to sink into the lake, they hurriedly threw a rope to their comrade on the car. Just before the car completely sank, they pulled the driver out. Meanwhile, Jack and the other's situation was also precarious. The ice under their feet was too brittle. Stepping a bit hard could cause them to fall into the lake. To make matters worse, a bald-headed thug also spotted them at this time. Fortunately, they ran desperately and finally reached Jack's place. From inside, they found several protective items, a hunting noose, using a bow and an oversized bear trap. As the bald man charged toward him on the snowmobile, Jack hastily set up the trap along the path. Immediately, the voluntary thug flew off the vehicle, diverging on a vehicle. Sensing danger, he scrambled to retrieve his dropped gun, only to take an arrow to the thigh. It pierced clean through his leg. Jack then grabbed his bow again, aiming at the man. They wrestled desperately on the ice, until Jack was pinned down by the bald man. Facing imminent death, Jack suddenly spotted the arrow in the man's leg. He yanked it out fiercely, and plunged it into the bald man's shoulder. To save himself, the thug endured the pain, reaching for the assault rifle on the ground. But just then, the ice cracked wide open. Jack plummeted into the freezing water. Enraged, the bald man emptied his magazine into the hole. Jack dodged underwater with agile movements, then seized the moment when his foe searched the surface, emerging stealthily behind him through the ice. He drove the arrow straight through the man's heel. At that instant, the policewoman rushed forward, clamping the bear trap onto the bald man's head. Seeing her partner killed by the trap, the female outlaw erupted in fury, vowing to tear the two apart, piece by piece. After a long chase, she finally spotted them in the snowfield. She raised her gun and unleashed frenzied gunfire. Yet her barrage was instantly halted by her accomplice. For killing Jack with a bullet would forfeit their chance to locate the crashed plane. For a long time, the gang had been searching for the plane submerged beneath the ice, because that plane contained the tens of millions of dollars they had stolen. To capture Jack alive and force him to reveal the plane's location, they could only pursue him cautiously, not daring to truly go for the kill. Meanwhile, Jack understood that given their current strength, they couldn't outrun the pursuers. So he led the policewoman in a different direction, toward his old hunting grounds, because there, he had set traps specifically designed for large animals. Before long, the female bandit stepped on one of these devices. A sharpened wooden stake plunged straight through her foot. Seeing this, her accomplices rushed over to help her up. They carried her to a nearby woodland cabin to treat her wound. While they frantically bandaged her injury, the gang leader arrived at the cabin with his men. He planned to hunt down Jack and the officer at daybreak, then slowly locate the sunken plane afterward. The next morning, just as dawn broke, Jack and the officer arrived at a nearby village. Soon, the officer summoned her police chief boyfriend, but then she noticed something suspicious. She had never mentioned anything about the crashed plane to anyone, yet her boyfriend asked about its location. Evidently, he had already been bribed by the gang leader. Seeing the officer refuse to disclose the plane's whereabouts, the police chief drew his gun and aimed it at her. He forced both of them into the police car, intending to hand them over to the gang leader. Realizing the police chief was obsessed with the money, Jack instantly proposed an even more tempting offer. If the chief delivered them to the gang, he would only get a fraction of the money from the plane. But if he took the sheriff straight to the crash site, all three could split tens of millions. The sheriff bit the bait instantly. Seeing the sheriff vote, Jack revealed the crash coordinates were concealed in his backpack's lining. The sheriff immediately rummaged through Jack's bag, but then a bear trap clamped on his right hand. The pain made his hand tremble. Steering wheel slipped. The car flipped over. Fortunately, Jack wasn't badly hurt. He kicked out the window and pulled Buick to safety. Enraged with his trapped hand, the sheriff drew his gun to shoot Jack, but before he could, his head exploded. When the vehicle overturned, the gang leader spotted them nearby. He called his men and gave chase. The Buick's heart sank. He was sure he was done for, but spotting a handgun on the ground ahead, a survival plan instantly formed in his mind. Without a word, he whipped off his jacket and tossed it in the air. He lunged towards it, grabbing the gun. Though he knocked down the female gunman, he still took a bullet in the shoulder. Soon the gang leader strolled over. He demanded Jack reveal the plane's location, but Jack refused to let them get the money. Seeing Jack wasn't playing ball, the leader shoved a gun into his subordinate's hand, ordering him to eliminate the troublesome female officer. Keeping her around would only cause problems, but the subordinate knew. Assaulting an officer meant rotting in jail. He immediately handed the gun back. He returned the gun to the boss and quit on the spot. This instantly enraged the boss. Seeing the boss's cruelty, his subordinate decided to risk it all. He intended to take the boss down with him. He knew methane gas was trapped beneath the ice. He immediately lit his lighter. The methane gas on the ice exploded with a deafening boom. Amid the chaos, Jack seized the chance to bolt. The boss and his subordinate were burned alive in the inferno. Soon Jack reached the shore. Only then did he realize the policewoman was missing. He found her tied up by the last thug in a warehouse. Suddenly, the policewoman whirled around. She broke free with a lunge. Seizing the opportunity, Jack rushed forward and grappled with the thug. But Jack was already utterly exhausted. He was no match for the thug. In a few moves, he was pinned to the ground. The thug aimed his gun at Jack, ready to fire. Just in time, the policewoman charged from behind. She struck the thug hard. Seizing this chance, both dashed out of the warehouse. Now completely unhinged, the thug vowed to tear them to pieces. Within moments, he knocked Jack down again. At the critical moment, the policewoman came to help. Ultimately, Jack slit the thug's throat. The thug sank into the icy water and drowned. In the end, Jack returned to the plane crash site. He retrieved tens of millions in cash from the wreckage, but he didn't pocket the ill-gotten gains. The money had already cost too many lives. It weighed heavy on his conscience. To ease his guilt, he donated every cent to the less fortunate villages nearby.